Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Learning to Glow podcast. I am your host, Jess. I'm very excited today. We have such a great episode that I know you're going to love. We have Neenet Hairapetian, and she shares with us her wisdom on the topic of hormone imbalance. I have been dying to talk about this in an episode because it's a topic that affects so many of us, me included, and we have the perfect guest to really break this topic down and give us some really great tips. She is a functional nutritionist who has helped hundreds of women relearn how to eat to restore their metabolism and balance their hormones. As a former chronic dieter, overachiever, diet expert, and constipation queen, she knows what it's like to be unhealthy and unhappy. She actually quit her 10-year corporate career to get her master's in nutrition. It's her mission to help women learn to nourish their bodies and take care of their health. If you've ever struggled with low energy, fatigue, or trouble with your digestion, heavy periods, or irregular periods, this episode is definitely for you. We touch upon ways we can start to get more balance with our hormones, from foods to stress, exercise, mindfulness. There's so many takeaways from this episode that are tangible ways to get started on this. Neenet also has a program called the Nourishing Nutrition Foundations Course. I actually took this a few years back. It was so incredible. I talk about my experience a little bit on this episode as well, but it's not what you think, and it's not the same things that we're used to seeing like clickbait. She has real information that makes a huge difference, and it is like such a refreshing take. You can reach out to her on Instagram. She's at Pencil Yourself In. I'll link that in the show notes. Definitely go and follow her. She has such great tips on her Instagram. And if you're interested in learning more about her, send her a DM. She can be reached that way. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to Learning to Glow. I have a special guest with me today. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I have so many things I want to talk about today, but we're going to keep it to hormones. But first, I wanted to have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to find your way with nutrition.
Yeah, thank you again for having me, Jess. So my name is Neenet. I am a nutritionist, and I work with women, and the way I try to frame what I do is I reteach women how to eat, or I should say, I help women relearn how to eat. So I teach women how to eat, but it's like kind of going back to how we were physiologically designed to eat as women. Over the years, we've all gone through so many diets. We've all done so many things in the name of health that we have lost that ability to actually eat how our bodies are designed to eat. Don't do carbs, don't do breakfast, don't do meat, like don't do all these things. And over those years of kind of listening to that and having so much of our value, also, this is a whole other topic, be kind of based on what we look like, we have completely lost that ability to eat and actually properly nourish our bodies. So we have tons and tons of women in this day and age with hormone imbalances, whether it's thyroid hormones, whether it's our sex hormones, progesterone, estrogen, PCOS, endometriosis, adrenal issues. We're faced with, so many people having these hormone imbalances. And I would kind of argue the nutrition piece is a big part of that. And how I got into this, I have my own journey with Hashimoto's. I was diagnosed now almost 10 years ago, actually, in my corporate years, where I like to say that I dedicated my soul to my career, and really, really just kind of neglected my health and myself. Like I said, kind of in that journey to lose weight and to look perfect and have kind of my worth based on what I look like and how productive I am at work. So lots and lots of things kind of contributed to my Hashimoto's. And so I started experimenting a little bit with nutrition. I got a certification. I kind of just like dipped my toes into that. And then later, eventually quit my corporate career, pursued my master's, my license, and now I'm able to kind of do this for a living, which is awesome.
I love it. I love that. I really relate to your journey. It's so similar to mine. You know a little bit about mine, but dealing with I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism about 10 years ago. And I have been such a victim to all of the diets and the fads. Like I think I've done them all. I don't think there's one that I haven't done. And I feel like it's put my body through such a ringer, and I'm still recovering and still trying to heal from all of that damage, because I feel like I did do a lot of damage. And it's especially in like the age of the internet where I was like, oh, this, one day it's like don't eat meat and one day it's intermittent fasting. And I was like just going to whatever I heard. I was very influenceable. And I think that really negatively impacted me. So what would you say are some of the most common signs that you see with women, like we're talking about, that have this hormonal imbalance?
I would say one of the biggest is energy. Like lack of energy is definitely a sign that you want to look at your hormones. When we have like no energy in the morning, when we wake up super sluggish, when we keep having to snooze, and then at night we somehow get this like burst of energy. We can't fall asleep, we can't wind down. So when that pattern is dysregulated, and completely just the opposite of what it should be, that's a big sign. Another sign is not being hungry, not having an appetite, not feeling hunger. You wake up, ideally, you would be eating within 30 minutes to an hour of waking up. And one of the biggest complaints that I hear from my students before they work with me on their hormones is that they're just not hungry in the morning. So morning hunger is a big one. And that's, by the way, completely like reversible. There's so much we can do to kind of bring those things back into balance. It's just a matter of tweaking the right things, right? And then just not being hungry throughout the day, feeling like, okay, well, I ate like 7 hours ago and I'm still not hungry. I don't have an appetite. That's also a big sign. Period issues, cycle irregularities, PMS, those things are like not normal. They're completely common, as with many things in the medical space, but they're not normal. Having debilitating PMS where you're sitting at home, you can't go to work, you have to call in sick, you're bleeding for 7, 8, 9, 10 days, or your periods are really heavy. If you get migraines during that time, if they're cyclical with your cycle, those are signs that there's things to look at. I would say those are the big three ones. And digestion is also another one, which kind of goes along with hunger. You eat something, you're bloated for like 4 hours and then you're not hungry, you don't poop, or, you're always on the toilet. And by the way, I say the word poop when we talk about poop all the time. So if this is a lot, just tell me. But it's normal for me and my world. So, not having bowel movements or having too many bowel movements or having, loose poops or like, pebble poops that come out. Those are also signs of, I would say, more like a metabolism issue, but the metabolism and hormones go hand in hand. Another one, sorry, last one is, the inability to lose weight no matter what you try. If you're like one of those people that's, I eat like 1,000 calories a day, 1,200 calories a day, and I'm still cutting back on that and I can't lose weight. I just balloon up. I'm so inflamed. Those are like, that's not normal. That's actually like, you're doing more damage by cutting calories trying to lose weight. So I would say that's an area to look at too, to start to balance the hormones and then, lose the weight the right way if that's what you desire. So those are the big 4 or 5.
Yeah, I had all those. Yeah, like every
So
one
did
of those.
I.
I feel like the best way to start is, because I can't wait to talk about the breakfast piece, because that's something that you really helped me with a few years ago. And that's made such a difference in my life. But I feel like let's start with, say you have a client like me or somebody that you've just described, and you're going to start working together, where do you start with them? What is the first thing that you guys talk about? And then we can kind of break those things down.
Yeah. So what I do with my students in my course, module 1 is a lot of like mindset. So we got to kind of cover some of that. Like, where did this come from? Where did this start? What are some beliefs we have about ourselves, our bodies, our worth, like whatever that looks like. We got to kind of like go there, look at that. And I'm not saying eliminate it forever because that's just not realistic, right? But just at least like address it. Module 2 goes into really regulating eating. But before we do that, to be honest, I have my students look at how much they're eating, because 99 out of 100 students are under eating. So, like I said, we've been brought up in that diet mentality where we're kind of just always on a lifelong quest to like lose weight. Even if it's just like, I have to lose 5 pounds to fit into a dress. Like, it's just like subconsciously in the back of our minds. So we have, our generation grew up with the 1,200 calorie diets and then the low fat diets. And then now it's like the low carb diet. So everything is just like in the back of our minds, it's always there. So subconsciously, it's also like driven our decisions with our day-to-day eating. So not, like I said, 99 out of 100 students are under eating. So we look at like where we're at now with our meals. If we're eating, let's say we look at kind of what I use with my students is the total daily energy expenditure calculation. So that's basically the amount of calories. So I don't like using the word calories because I think it just has that like negative connotation, but essentially it's the amount of energy we need from food, which is what a calorie is, in our day-to-day based on our, how much we weigh, our height, our daily activity to just maintain weight. So that number is actually a number that we need to just literally maintain weight, not lose weight, not gain weight, just like to maintain our weight, but more importantly, to have our bodies function the way they are designed to function, so that we, go to the bathroom regularly, so that we have energy, so that our hormones are being produced. Because if we're under eating, our hormones are not being produced. Our bodies are like, that's not a priority right now. We're barely surviving. We can't be focused on producing hormones for your metabolism and for you to ovulate. It's just, that's how our bodies work, right? So if we're not there regularly for a good amount of time, we're not where our bodies need to be. So like I said, 99 out of 100 students are never there. So what we do is I actually have my students work up to that number. Like I said, typically because they're so much lower, we have to work up. We have to eat more. So we look at typically where we're at right now and slowly work our way up to that number. And that's kind of the nuance with what I teach in my course, how to do that appropriately, so that you're not going from 1,200 calories to 2,000 calories overnight, because our bodies are just going to freak out. They're not going to know what to do with that. So that's where we start. And then we get into blood sugar balance, what that is, how to actually balance our blood sugar throughout the day, because that really impacts our metabolism, our hormones, our energy cycle, and what blood sugar balance really actually means, because there is a lot of, anytime you hear blood sugar balance, when you think of what you see online, it's like, go low carb, sugar is bad, fruit is bad, don't eat fruit on its own. And it's this like, the messaging is very alarming and scary. And you think, oh, I have to go low carb to balance my blood sugar, but that's actually like, no, that can't be further from the truth. Our bodies love the carbs. So kind of undoing some of the work around carbs and how to appropriately eat the carbs and how much our bodies need. So we work with macros and things like that as well in the beginning of the journey.
I feel like it's such a good place to start with the mindset, because I can say this from experience too. I'm sure some of your clients get to level module 2 and say, oh my gosh, I have to eat more. So it's almost like you have to start with that mindset piece, because they're going to freak out when you're saying, they're like, no, I want to lose weight. Why would I add more? So I love that you do that first. It's such an important piece. And then I see all the time, things like this on Instagram and online with the blood sugar. It's a spike, it's scary. I totally see that all the time. And that's another, I guess that goes back to the mindset piece, and not maybe learning how to not take all of that in, and to really have, well, your module will give you that information so that you don't have to be scared about doing these things, because I think it is ingrained in us for so long that it's scary to change it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I would argue most women that I work with, I mean, all women I work with, but most women just in the general population, who have a history of dieting, who are under eating, who are kind of geeking out about all the nutrition stuff, one of the biggest things we have to look out for is not the blood sugar high, is the blood sugar low.
Mm.
So, and yes, with a huge spike comes a low, of course, but the best way to avoid that low is to be eating regularly, is to be eating breakfast. And so it's the complete opposite of what is typically out there.
So let's talk about breakfast and maybe even some of the intermittent, I want to get your thoughts on intermittent fasting because when I took your course, I was doing that. I was intermittent fasting and I was waking up and I'd have coffee over caffeinated for sure. And I wouldn't eat until about 11:30 or 12. And that was I feel like the first and biggest change I made in your course. So tell me what you think about eating a breakfast and why it's important.
Yeah, I think breakfast is really important for the female body. I'm not talking about, if you have this rare disease that you would benefit from with fasting and all this stuff. I think there's some of that out there. However, if your goal, and this is what it comes down to, what is your goal? If your goal is to balance your hormones, you absolutely need breakfast. If your goal is to put your body through torture, then don't have breakfast. I don't know what to tell you because our bodies, our female bodies, we are designed to really be optimal in a safe environment. Our bodies love safety. Our hormones need safety. In order to ovulate, we need to feel safe. And one of the worst things and one of the biggest kind of signs of danger you can give your female body is long term not eating for a long time. Right? I'm not saying one day here or there. I think just throw that out, like get that out of the way. I've been traveling. Like there were days I didn't eat till 11 or 12, but one day here or there is not going to make or break anything, especially kind of at the point that if you are kind of at a point where your hormones are in a good place, it's okay. However, if that's your regular, if you're doing months and months of fasting and not eating till 12, that is literally training your body to do like the bare minimum because you're providing it the bare minimum. It signals danger to our bodies. It's the complete opposite of safety. When we wake up in the morning, one of the worst things we can do, and I don't mean to call you out, and not nobody else, I'm not calling anybody out because this is so common, but like drinking just plain coffee on an empty stomach, that is literally like, oh, cortisol, oh my God, blood sugar spike. And then what happens? We just talked about the dip, right, throughout the day. So, yeah, I'm a huge breakfast fan. As long as your breakfast includes, this is the main thing, right? Like not eating like Cheerios for breakfast, just, plain carbs for breakfast. We want to make sure we're eating protein for breakfast and adequate protein. I would say at least 25 grams of protein for breakfast with your carbs.
I know everybody's going to want to know what are some examples, like what are some breakfasts that you find to be really helpful for a positive day ahead?
Yeah. So eggs are great if you can tolerate eggs. Are you back on eggs? I can't. No. Okay. Not
No,
yet. Not yet. We're
sadly.
gonna get there. Eggs are really great for breakfast, although I will say like it's one of those things that you get sick of, right? Like today I had yogurt with some, just to get some carbs. I had like some cookies just on top because I haven't done groceries because I've been so all over the place. But I had that and I was like, let me just boil a couple more eggs. Like, let's just get more protein in. And I will say I ate like one and a half of the 3 eggs I boiled because I just got I'm tired of eggs. So we go through phases, right? And if you're tired of eggs, it's okay. I would say if you can do eggs with chicken sausage. Each sausage is like 14 grams of protein, which is really great. You can do turkey patties. Like there's like really great, what's the brand? Trevally. They have them in the freezer section at, Whole Foods, Sprouts. Those are great as well, just in addition to the eggs. You can do yogurt if you can tolerate dairy, which we should be able to tolerate dairy, right? But if we're not there yet, like a lot of people, we have to work on digestion, our gut, our mineral balance, all those things. But I'm at a point where I have yogurt almost every single day. That's also a really great nourishing source of protein. If you can't do any of that for any reason, I would say protein powder. You can start with shakes. I really like collagen protein. It's about 20 grams or 18 grams in 2 scoops, the brand that I use and recommend. But I also have whey protein that I personally have started to kind of reintroduce. And that one's about 20 grams. You can throw in some peanut butter. You can throw in some Siggy's yogurt, which is what I do every single day for more protein. So those are just some options.
I love those. I I would kill for an egg. I know one day I'll be able to eat them again, but
Yes.
I feel like if you can, that's such a great way. And I feel like eggs are a lot lower in protein than people think. I remember when I was eating eggs, I'd be like, I'll just have one hard boiled egg. That's like not a lot of protein.
It's 6 grams.
Yeah. And you're trying to start your day with at least 25. So that's not a lot. You have to eat a lot of eggs to get
At least four
there.
eggs. At least
Yeah.
4 eggs, yeah. If you're just doing eggs, yes. Which is
Right.
why it's good to do some of the sausage or the patties, bacon. I mean, bacon is really, really good, and it tastes good. It adds like a different kind of flavor to it. It spices things up. Another one is cheese. I think I didn't mention that one, but if you can sprinkle some cheese, that's great too.
Yeah. Or cottage cheese.
Or a cottage cheese, yes. I'm not a fan, which is why I always
Don't
forget.
mention
That is,
it.
that is a good one.
I found a lactose-free cottage cheese. Good, it's good culture, I think,
Yeah.
and I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good, and I like that it's pretty high in protein too.
Yeah.
That's
Great.
a good snack too.
I love it.
So yeah, so okay, this is the next one that you had mentioned. 4 symptoms of people who are kind of imbalanced with their hormones was the period piece. So talk to us a little bit about that, and what are I know a combination of all of these things are going to help with regulate our periods, but if you have a client who is, I'll use myself as an example. I have extremely heavy periods, and they're getting better actually, but 7 days, heavy flow. I sometimes headaches and definitely cramping. There's one day of the month where I'm in complete hell. It's like if I have plans that day, it's going to be rough. I'm changing my tampon every hour. Like it's bad. What
Mhm.
would you say to somebody that has an irregular period and any of the things that you had mentioned before?
Yeah. So to me, that sounds like you need to work on increasing your progesterone because possibly when I hear like heavy periods, especially if they're like clotty, I don't know if that applies to
Mhm.
you. Yeah. So that typically, not always, but typically I go to high estrogen compared to progesterone. This doesn't mean you have high estrogen and you need to cut back on your estrogen and get rid of estrogen. It just means we have to look at that ratio because that ratio is important because we love estrogen. It's an important hormone. It's just when it's kind of off balance. Not to get too technical, but the way to increase progesterone to help that ratio is to do the things that we're talking about, helping your body feel safe. Because if you are low progesterone, we really need to look at ovulation. Are you ovulating every month, halfway through your cycle? So, like that day, 13, 14, 15, 16, like around that time, are you ovulating? Because without ovulation, your progesterone is going to be low. And how you ovulate, like I said, is going back to these basics, the nutrition foundations that I really, really teach and focus on. Because I think a lot of times we think, okay, I have heavy periods, my hormones are imbalanced, I need to get rid of estrogen. Let me take 5 supplements and get rid of estrogen. But we don't actually realize like what's going on underneath. And the root cause is lack of that safety in your body. So if you're high stress, if you have, a business you're running, if you have a family you're running, if you are, whatever you're going through, right? If you're in a high stress time, that's, that can help explain why the safety is lacking, which is why progesterone's low. So really looking at food wise, right? Like, so let's just put this in, there's 2 types of stress. There's lifestyle stress, right? All the family stuff, work, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's food stress. So we want to do what we can with this bubble, with the food stress, to help your overall stress go down. What puts our bodies under stress as it relates to food? Skipping breakfast,
Mhm.
under eating, going 6 hours between meals. Like I recommend when you start my course, I recommend you eat every 3 to 4 hours in the beginning, especially because you want to train your body like, okay, there's more food coming. Okay. Then kind of calming your system down, right? Not saying, oh, there's no food coming. We have to kind of like turn all the alarms on, shut off digestion, shut off hormones. It's unsafe here. So, not eating, that was the third one, not going too long without food. Not eating enough protein, that's another one. Not eating enough carbs, that's the big, I would say that's the biggest one for my low carb students coming into really work on their foundations. They realize like how much better they feel with carbs and how much, and not that it's about weight, this isn't about weight, my mission is not necessarily about weight, but if somebody has a goal of weight loss, I'm okay with that as long as they're doing it the right way, right? After doing more carbs and working on that ratio, they start to lose weight and they're like, how am I losing weight with carbs? Right. So, not going too low carb, because that is the complete opposite. Our bodies love, love, love getting energy from carbs. They do not like getting energy from fat. That is not the preferred way to do things. And being, I would say, low mineral and low nutrient in general. So if you're low nutrient, if you have low B vitamins, if you're low sodium, low potassium, like the essential minerals, magnesium, that's another big one. Those are the big ones.
Oh, I love that. When I first started my wellness journey, I had already been in the skincare industry for years, working on client skin and as an educator for multiple skincare brands. When I learned about how the toxins in our personal care and beauty products could have a negative impact on our health, I knew I needed to make a change. I was used to the result-driven products that I was working with, and I was not happy with the natural products on the market at that time. Although they were safer and cleaner, they did not meet my expectations for results. I created Simply Just Skincare to deliver the results my clients demanded from their products while using natural, toxin-free ingredients. You can check out my clients' results and reviews on my website, simplyjustskincare.com. In 30 days, my clients have reported more hydrated skin, less appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, and more of an overall glow. Our top sellers include our Repair Toner, our Hydrating Undo Serum with hyaluronic acid, and more. I am offering my listeners 20% off their first order with code PODCAST. Check it out in the link in my show notes to get glowing today. So, kind of keeping it on the stress topic, I think another, and this is something that has been a big epiphany to me, like literally in the last month. Talk to me about exercise, because I feel like that can be, I mean, it's exercise is a stress on the body. It's not a bad stress, but I feel like back to, the 90s and the programming that we have with cardio, that's something that I kind of grew up with. I went to high school in the 90s, so I definitely had, I took a step aerobics class in high school, but I feel like there's more awareness about, lifting weights and things like that. So what do you recommend to your clients that are in that kind of like, I want to lose weight and I want to do these high impact, high intensity workouts? Is that too much stress, or is that okay? Or what do you think about all that?
I would say it, as with anything, it depends on where somebody is in their journey.
Okay.
Let's have three categories. If somebody's at the beginning of their journey, they have horrible periods, they're eating 1,000 calories a day, their hair is falling out, they have acne, like everything's just low energy, hit high intensity workouts, cardio, crazy things, even weightlifting, I would say do not do that. I would say just start with a morning walk, afternoon walk, evening walk, wherever you can fit it in. If you could do twice a day, amazing. Really, the goal at that point is supporting the adrenals and the cortisol and all of that. And a morning walk is just such a great, nourishing way to start your day. And that is exactly what your body needs at that time. It does not need any more. And I think that's a really hard thing for us to accept. So let's say you're not there. Let's say you're here where you are doing the walking, things are starting to improve. You're like, okay, cool. My hair is not falling out. I have energy. And I keep saying hair falling out because that's a sign of like really adrenal, low metabolism, etc., hormone imbalances. Let's say you're kind of like improved a little bit. You're 3 months into your journey, you did this, and now you're like, I want to lift weights and I want to build muscle and I want to continue to support my metabolism. Great. Lift the weights. Do not do HIIT. Do not do cardio. Completely unnecessary. It's still very taxing on the adrenals. And I'm only saying do the weights, assuming you're eating enough and you're able to eat more after you lift the weights. Because I don't want, sometimes we can kind of relapse and go, okay, well, I lifted weights. I burned, let's say 500 calories. Okay, I'm just going to not eat and I'm going to like burn 500 calories and call it a day. No, no, no. If you're lifting weights, you need to be eating more. If you can accept that, then yes, do the weights. And if you're here where you're like years in and you're like, I just love running and it gives me such a mental high. And, I know exactly that I need to replete my minerals. I definitely have to prioritize electrolytes. I definitely have to eat. I'm eating enough carbs for my body, at least 200 grams a day, because that's what my body needs. Like if you're there, sure, go run, go do HIIT, go do all that. If you're evolved enough. But I think like you said, we just kind of wake up and because of our programming, we're like, okay, I have, I'm bloated. I need to lose weight to fit into a dress. Let me just go running 7 days a week for 3 months and burn calories. That's a disaster. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm kind of in the middle of what you described at this point in my health journey. And I remember a couple weeks ago, I took a class and at a gym I love, and I was a wreck that day. The day went on. I was fine in the morning. As the day went on, I was like, I am so exhausted. I was like, I need couch time. I had to sit on the couch. I could not make it through the day. And it was just like this light bulb went off when I was like, I am not ready. It is not necessary for me to do these workouts right now. So I have stopped and I'm still doing workouts, and I know enough after all these years of doing exercise what my body needs, and I'm actually listening to it. I'm so hard-headed sometimes because I'm just like, it took that one day, to really put two and two together and be like, this is not helping. Like, why am I doing this really? So
I was just going to say, like, I would look at, if that is what happened to you, I would look at, or anybody listening, I would look at, did I eat enough during the day? If it was a morning workout, did I really eat something like a snack before? Because I do recommend eating before, like fasted workouts, just for the record. I think just to put it out there, do not recommend that. Again, same thing for what we talked about with no breakfast. Because it spikes your cortisol and then it's like, whoop, down. So of course you were tired if that was the case. The other thing is after a workout, eating the right things and eating enough and repleting carbs, especially if it was high intensity, and repleting minerals if you sweat a lot. So if you didn't do those things, and I don't know, did you do all of that? Were you kind of on it with that?
I don't, yeah, I think I was pretty good. I was pretty good about all that. I've learned enough about that to do that, but yeah, I just still think it was too much.
Too much. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And with the minerals too, I know we didn't really talk about it in this podcast, but this, like how important they are for the adrenals. So during a time like that, just double up on them or grab one of the electrolyte packets, like some of the better quality ones, and just double up on that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's really helpful. I really love that. So another thing I learned in the course that I want you to talk about that is so important, I feel like, especially if you're having digestion issues, which I've really suffered with digestion in my life, is kind of that mindful piece. Mm-hmm. So give us some tips as you're eating. How we eat is important. It's like what we eat. Yeah, we always talk about that, but we don't really talk about how we eat and how that can play a role in our digestion. So can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, for sure. So digestion, when you think about where digestion begins, a lot of times people think, oh, in my stomach, if actually people know that, like anatomy, right? Or they say when I chew my food, that's, I would say, like really sophisticated. But truly, truly, where digestion begins is in our nervous system and our brains. So if we are not in a calm state, if our nervous system, we have two arms of our that piece of our nervous system. We have our parasympathetic nervous system, which is also rest and digest, and then we have our sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight or freeze, right? So this one, the parasympathetic, is the one that we want to be activated during mealtime. What happens is oftentimes it's the opposite, where fight or flight is activated. And what happens when fight or flight is activated, you can't really like be in the middle. You can't have both of them on. You can't be stressed and relaxed at the same time. You're either stressed or relaxed. So if fight or flight is activated, what our bodies perceive that as, and how we've been, we've evolutionarily kind of evolved, is there's a tiger chasing me and I need to turn off every process in the body, including digestion, and I need to run for my life and save my life. So if you're in that mode, fight or flight, and luckily, fortunately, we're not, running away from tigers, but that part of our nervous system is activated a lot for most people. We're scrolling on social media and we're seeing things and we're freaking out. We're, one meeting to the other at work. We're dealing with, stress with our family and our situations. And our fight or flight is just chronically on. And so what we have to be good at is being able to turn that off during mealtime and turn this guy on, our rest and digest. Because what happens is when rest and digest is activated, that's when our body feels safe to begin digestion. So then that signals to our body to secrete stomach acid, which we need for digestion. We need digestive enzymes and pancreatic enzymes for digestion. We need bile. We need all these digestive juices, if we want to just call it that, to actually break down the food we're eating, to actually digest the food we're eating and actually absorb what we need from the food. So if that's not happening, if we're not in the right arm of our nervous system, the food's kind of sitting there. The food is not being broken down properly. We're not absorbing what we need from the food. And then that can create, imbalances in the gut and lead to further issues and things like that. So that is the number one. Like, people are like, what probiotic do you recommend? And I'm like, hold on, we're not talking about probiotics. That's just last step. Most people need to worry about things beforehand. So that's what we call north to south, supporting digestion, because that's where we can make the biggest impact.
And that is something that you never hear talked about when it's true. Like when you're looking at Instagram, it's you should buy this drink and then, or this supplement, and then you'll have great digestion. But it goes back to these basic things. If we're not doing these things, that's not going to make, and I've tried them. Trust me. I've
because influencers can't make money. Affiliates can't make money on telling somebody to slow down and, chew their food and be relaxed when they're eating. So.
Right. Or take a breath before you start. And that was one thing that I learned to do with you. And yeah. To take a breath and have just a minute and also not to be on my phone when I'm eating or watching something. And especially when you're alone, I remember that was a little challenging for me at first, because I'm eating lunch by myself, nobody's home, and what am I need to, we're so used to looking at things and being entertained, and it's a moment of silence is rare, but nice. It's nice. It's something that you have to get used to and practice, I feel like. But
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, that piece of just being on your phone because you're alone. And I can relate to, I live alone and I eat a lot of meals alone. And so it's the complete opposite of being mindful, right? Being mindful is being present with your meal, tasting it, really chewing it, really savoring it, making it like a ritual. Well, when you're on your phone, you're just kind of eating, but your mind is here and you're really just disconnecting from what's actually happening. And that's the complete opposite of being mindful. Yeah. So I love the deep breath example. I think that's a great way to do the deep belly breaths before your meal. Chewing is another one. So physically breaking down the food, because I would bet $1 million right now, most people here are not chewing their food. They chew 4 times and they swallow. And if you're swallowing food that's, in chunks, then it hasn't been physically broken down as much as it could be. That's more work on your gut that's already struggling to keep up. So that's another one. The breathing and the chewing are two really, really simple but not easy things to do.
I know you hear people say, I inhaled my food. They are. It's like it does take a minute because growing up, I used to get made fun of at my dinner table because I ate too fast. And I'm the one with the digestion issue. So this is a really good tip people should pay attention to. And
Yes.
you've come so far on your journey from where you started to now. And and everybody needs to go follow you on Instagram, but you talk a lot on your Instagram and you show your life and how you live what I see as a balanced life. And what does that look like now? You just got back from Europe and you were living it up. You were enjoying yourself. You're not like, I feel like you never are rigid that with the material that you teach, but also how you live your life. So like, what does a trip look like? What do your vacations look like? Are you keeping it the same or do you like let loose a little bit? What do you do at this point in your journey?
Yeah. And I will say I have been through the super rigid days. And I think that's why I really push balance, because my body is in a better place. My hormones are in a better place because I have that balance. When we're too rigid, it's not safety either. Right. So always go
Mm.
back to safety with hormones. How my vacations are. So there are a few things that I stick to on vacation. I do really, really push eating the 3 meals a day. That's one of the foundations I really support my students with and really try to just like ingrain in everyone's head. Like I said, there are days that like we didn't have breakfast, we slept in because we were out until 3 a.m. Like we did, like it was actually, this was a bad example because this was one of the crazier trips I've had. And now we were talking earlier, I'm like happy to be home and in my routine. But it's finding that balance, right? I know exactly what I need to do now that I'm home. Definitely prioritize the breakfast, definitely prioritize more protein because in Spain, we didn't really eat a ton of protein. Like
Mm.
we didn't have eggs for breakfast. It was like ham sandwiches or chocolate croissants for breakfast. So when I travel, I really do push the 3 meals a day and eating when I'm hungry because you're walking a lot, you're exploring, or, not necessarily even when I'm hungry, because sometimes it's like you walk by and it's this famous, I'm just making this up, this famous bakery and they're known for these chocolate croissants. And you're like, I'm here. I really want to try one and it smells so good. I honor that because food is also meant to be enjoyed. It's not just like, oh, eat on the schedule and, only do this and don't touch this. And that's also a part of living a human experience, enjoying food. Food is nourishment, yes, and it like brings joy. So doing those things, I do quote unquote let loose, like you said. I had alcohol every day on that trip. I don't eat gluten here, but I had gluten every day on that trip. So I do bend my rules, but it's only because I know where I'm at in this journey. And I've, like you said, kind of worked on these things for a long time. I know, nutrient wise what my body needs. So there are a few supplements that I'm taking for myself that I pack and I take every day, even if I am traveling. So it's figuring out what that looks like for you. But I think to get to that point, it's really like important for a while, for a couple of months, to be really kind of on it with your foundations, to be making sure you're hitting your protein goals, your carb goals, to be making sure you're eating every few hours, taking your supplements, going to bed on time, to be doing those things really kind of more strictly, to be able to do that, and really getting familiar with your body, because I think, like I said, like I know what I need, but that's not what an influencer is telling you on Instagram. That's having gone through a journey of like, wow, when I do these things, I feel good. When I take this supplement, like for me, that's really, really important because I know I'm low, let's just say in magnesium. I really need my magnesium every day for now. So you get to figure out what works for you. But that's a journey of really dedicating some time and practicing and rinsing and repeating those foundations to be able to get to that.
And it's such a payoff, when you do that.
Yeah.
You are such a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of it with us. I would love for you to share more about your course because I think people are going to be interested to learn about that and other ways that they can work with you. Share all that and how we can find you.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. I hope it was helpful. I feel like I can go on and on, but hopefully this
Well,
was like good, tangible steps.
was amazing, and you're gonna have to come back, and there's a million things I could talk about
Part
with you. So,
two.
yeah, part 2 is coming.
Thank you again. Yeah, so the best place to find me, to contact me, is on Instagram. My Instagram is at pencil yourself in, because it's important for every woman to pencil herself into her schedule. And my course is my Nourishing Nutrition Foundations course. So it's my 8-module course. I do a group program, but I also have the course on its own. We just kicked off my current round of the group program today. And it's basically an 8-module course to help you master, rinse, and repeat your nutrition foundations that support your hormone balance journey. And the angle is really, with that food freedom, anti kind of diet mentality, where you really do live in balance. And so that is, like I said, available on its own. You can also join us in the group program, but you can find out more by messaging me if that is something that you're interested in.
I highly recommend the course. I've taken it. It really is life-changing, and I feel like the piece that really helped me was that, that mindset piece, because I wasn't there before that course, and it's helped me in this journey like years later since taking it. It's been such a it is my foundation of how I do things from now on. So, thank you again for coming, and
Thank
we'll
you.
have you back.
Yay. Thanks again, Jess. So good to see you.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.